So today on the Dr. Joe Show, we've got a very special episode seeing me go into enemy territory, that is the ABC in Adelaide, which is definitely hostile, and answer their questions unfiltered live on radio. Now, this was an interview I did with David Bevan the day after Jing Lee accused a mysterious external visitor in the Parliament of bullying her. That became headline news across Adelaide. It was the top story. I was definitely suspect number one. Now, she didn't name me in the Parliament, but everybody knew who she was talking about. It was a speech that she'd been put up to by leftists like Tammy Franks, Michelle Lenzik. She'd clearly been coerced into doing that speech. As we've talked about on this show before, Jing Lee does seem to be persuaded by the last person she spoke to, hence why she spoke to me and decided not to pair, speaks to them and suddenly decides that I bullied her despite the fact that we've taken a selfie together. And many hours after we talked, she thanked me via a text message. So this was an extraordinary upending of my world when Jing Lee made that speech in the Parliament. I knew that the leftist media had been trying to get Sarah Game to say that I'd bullied her. She'd texted me about that. She had been very adamant about the fact that she didn't pair with Michelle Lenzik and that I'd spoken to her, but there was no bullying. That was just a robust conversation between two grown adults, which is what the conversation between Jing Lee and I, which lasted for about 10 minutes, was as well. So, you know, David Bevan invited me onto ABC Radio. I walked into that enemy territory and I'm actually really proud of the way that I handled myself in it. Now, I knew that I might get stitched up by them, and so one of the conditions I made for doing the interview was I want to record it. And so I think for the first time, probably in ABC Adelaide's history, and it will never happen again because the clips of me answering David's questions have gone viral and done very well on social media. But we videoed it. And what you're going to see today is ABC versus Joanna Howe. I hope you enjoy it.
Dr. Joanna Howe joins us in our studios now. Welcome, Joanna.
Hello, everybody.
Did you pressure Jing Lee to renege on her pair with Michelle Lenzik?
I did.
Why?
So the way this all went down was I was in the Parliament when the discussion on the bill started, and very quickly they moved to a dinner break. And just before the dinner break, I was told that Jing Lee was intending to pair with Michelle Lenzik on this very important vote. Now,
Who told you that?
I had been told by, it was someone in the Liberal Party. I actually can't remember the name of that person. There was a few people that told me, actually. And I was shocked because I had been told that nobody in the Liberal Party would pair. This was a conscience vote. Nobody in Labor or the Liberal Party would pair because there's no obligation to pair on a conscience vote. So I was really shocked by that because I had counted Jing as someone who had said that she was going to vote for the bill. I rang her and left a voicemail but didn't get through. And as I left the Parliament to go out for dinner, to grab some dinner on Rundle Street, Jing was standing there in the foyer talking to some people. So that was really just an amazing moment to see her there because, you know, I had no other way, I guess, of reaching her. And immediately just went up to her and I said, Jing, I'm Joanna Howe. I'd really like to talk to you urgently about your decision to pair. Could we please do that now? She very graciously said, yes, of course. And then she ushered me through a door, which I think is a door that visitors can't go in unless a parliamentarian takes them through. So it was like a dining, it's the kind of the couch area before you get to the dining room. So she had some dinner guests, so we had a 10-minute chat in that area.
Did you threaten her pre-selection?
So what happened in that conversation is we sat down on the couch and I said to her, Jing, I've heard that you're intending to pair out of this vote. And she said, yes, but I'm going to speak for the bill. I'm pro-life. I really believe in the bill. I'm going to speak for it, but I have said to Michelle that I will pair with her. I said to her then, if you do that, you are actually going to be the reason it doesn't go to committee stage. That's how close it is. And she didn't realise it was that close. And so then I went through the members of Parliament and how I understood them to be voting. And I hadn't heard back from Reggie Martin yet, but
He's from the Labor Party.
He's from the Labor Party. But I put him in the camp voting against the bill because I'd been told by many people that he's a company man and that Mallee didn't want this getting through to the lower house. That's what I'd been told. So I couldn't count his vote. But I knew that even if Reggie voted against the bill, if Jing didn't pair, it would tie and it would then go to the president. So that's what I said to Jing. She said to me she didn't realise it was that close. And do you want me to tell you then what we talked about?
Well, yes. Did you threaten her pre-selection?
No. So then what I said is, so then if I just could tell you what happened. So she said she didn't realise it was that close, but she wanted to pair with Michelle because Michelle had cancer and she was sympathetic to that. I said, I completely understand that. She's your colleague. I empathise with Michelle's plight too. But there is no obligation to pair on a conscience vote. There's no rule of the Liberal Party or parliamentary convention requiring you to pair. And I said, you know, I can understand the compassion for Michelle, but what's at stake with this bill is, you know, I've already spoken to the public about the fact that 45 healthy babies have been killed after viability through an injection of potassium chloride into their heart. And just let me finish, David. And then they're delivered stillborn. And I said, if you pair out, some of those babies that could be saved if this bill passes won't be saved. And so then I said to her, because I know this is what you really want to know, then I said to her, I have a public platform. Okay, I'm not a member of the Liberal Party and I don't control a faction. In fact, I'm a member of the Labor Party. And so I'm very aware of how factional politics work, but I have no influence to control a pre-selection of the Liberal Party. But what I said to her was this, as I have a public platform, I have a voice. Over 2.5 years on social media and speaking in the public about this issue of abortion, which I'm very passionate about, and I'm passionate about raising awareness. There's 120,000 people that follow me on my email database, and I speak to them every day. And I said, if you pair with Michelle, you will be the reason it doesn't proceed to committee stage. You will have neutralised the power of your vote, and I will hold you to account in the public square. And I speak to pre-selectors because many Liberal Party pre-selectors who vote on this follow me, and I know how pro-life that membership is, and I think it will affect your pre-selection. And then I told her that I've done this very same thing to Senator Maria Kovacic in New South Wales when there was an urgency motion in the federal parliament about whether babies who are born alive after an abortion, whether they have a right to medical care. I called out Maria Kovacic. I had a petition that the Liberal Party should dump Maria Kovacic. It was very successful. The YouTube video, you know, I reach over 1 million people a month. So I said all of this to Jing because it's actually courteous to do so, to tell her that this is going to happen.
Did you do that to Dennis Hood as well?
So I didn't get the chance to tell Dennis.
But afterwards, did you?
But I did, absolutely. So these were not empty threats. This is the political process. I'm an advocate. I'm a campaigner. I had helped draft this bill. I led the team. I was the public face of it. It would have been discourteous for me not to tell her. And I wish I could have told Dennis Hood. I couldn't believe that Dennis Hood, who had been ostensibly pro-life for 18 years, used that moment to neutralise the power of his vote.
Are you doing this at the bidding of anyone inside the Liberal Party?
Are you serious? Is that a serious question?
Well,
Do I look like someone who has somebody pulling their strings? That's actually offensive as a woman to be asked that question.
I asked that, and I don't mean to offend you, but I asked that because the Premier says this is Trumpian politics and somebody in the Liberal Party is responsible for what Jing Lee did.
The Premier is playing politics with this. I heard what he said to you, and he said that he said that this bill would have required women to be forcibly induced, and that when he voted against late-term abortion in 2021, it was a completely different story, and that Ben Hood's bill was more radical. Now, that is utterly inaccurate, and he is playing politics because women have to give birth at the moment when they have an abortion after 28 weeks. They are forcibly induced at the moment. And so when the Premier says that somebody's pulling my strings, I say to him, how dare you say that to me? I'm a professor of law, I'm a Rhodes Scholar, I'm a mother of 5, I'm a citizen of Australia, and I thought we believed in equality.
Dr. Howe, do you pressure only women? Because if you look at some of them, it seems like you target women specifically, women MPs or MLCs, or do you target anyone who has these views?
I will target anybody who chooses to vote for injecting babies in the heart with potassium chloride after 28 weeks and then forcibly inducing them dead. That is a disgusting position to take, and it's completely unnecessary because we could just skip the lethal injection, which is painful, and we don't even do it to animals, and we could induce these babies alive. So the women who I have spoken about are the women who came out against the bill. They were very vocal about their opposition to the bill. But during the campaign, I actually spoke probably most prominently about Peter Malinauskas and his role as the Premier of this state.
Just before we get to the news, just to So just to get to what the Premier said so you can respond, he mentioned Alex Antic and Tony Passon. Now, I know you're a member of the Labor Party, but he said that they might have been involved
Absolutely not.
In what happened that
never
night.
Spoke to Alex Antic about this. I've obviously spoken to him in the past. I've interviewed him for my channel. I've never even met Tony Passon. I don't think I've ever spoken to him. It sounds like absolute conspiracy theories from the Premier, who's pretty desperate to get a hit on Tasia by the sounds of things. I mean, genuinely, that's all I can make of it.
Okay, now we're only a minute away from the 9 o'clock news. I've got some more questions for you. Will you stay on after 9 o'clock?
Of course, I'd love to finish the story because I haven't finished it.
All right, well, we'll hear the rest of your story. And part of that story, I want to know, do you think you owe Jing Lee an apology? I want to ask you, was Jing Lee upset when you left her? Was there anything that followed that discussion? I want to know, do you think your enthusiasm for this cause, your passion, it's actually started to backfire and it's actually doing you some harm? Because you've obviously paid a price. I think that is fair to say, personally in this. So there's some of the questions that I want to put to Dr. Joanna Howe, Professor of Law at the University of Adelaide, the person who was very much in the centre of what was being discussed on this very tense night a couple of weeks ago, which led to Jing Lee making her statement yesterday saying, look, I was pressured and I made a mistake.
David, we don't know if that's me, just to be clear. It's like she didn't actually name me. So I think it's important to give Jing Lee that opportunity because we'll talk about it after the break.
After the break. Dr. Joanna Howe, thanks for sticking around.
That's all right. It's good. I want to finish the story.
Finish the story. What do you say happened next?
So after I said that very clearly to Jing, that if you make this decision not to pair, then I will make you the hero of this because it will pass to the committee stage, and I think you deserve credit for that, and that's a really good decision to make. And I also told her the converse of what would happen if she didn't, and I think that was the right thing to do.
That's a threat.
Well, it's what happens in politics, isn't it? It's not an empty threat. I did it to Dennis Hood. Dennis Hood paired, and I have absolutely called him out. And, there's people in the pro-life movement who think I shouldn't have done that. It's been controversial. But I think that when something as big as this is at stake, you have babies being forcibly injected with potassium chloride after 28 weeks and delivered dead. That's pretty high stakes stuff. And, it's not like just building a new road or opening a bridge. It's a really significant decision. Lives are at stake, human lives. And, the bill just said, let's induce these babies alive rather than dead. I wanted Jing to know what was at stake. And so we talked about that. But I do want to share with people, after she agreed not to pair, we actually hugged and we took a selfie together. And I'll be putting that up today on my socials so people can see it. And we had a text message exchange, and in the text message, and I quote, she said, "Thank you for seizing the moment to speak to me during the dinner break!" ! So, I really don't know if it's me that she's talking about in the parliament, but it really came out of left field when you sent me the statement yesterday that she made. I was about to pick up the kids from school. Totally came out of the blue because we had a cordial conversation. It was assertive, but I'm assuming that politicians are used to this kind of thing. Like, I had a 45-minute sit down with Reggie Martin before the vote, and I showed him. And
again, he's with the Labor
Party. And I said exactly what I said to Jing in terms of, I will hold you to account for this. I showed him an animation of what a late-term abortion is. I had a senior neonatologist and a gynecologist with me. We spoke to him, and he never did me the courtesy of telling me he wasn't voting for the bill. I heard that through a third party who said he's not going to vote. So I emailed him, and again, I emailed him just before the vote, and I said, look, I understand from other people that you're not voting for this bill. I cannot believe that, given what we discussed, and given that he...
It would be easy for us to get down into the weeds here, but a lot of people are listening to this conversation.
But I guess, can I just say the point that I'm making is... This wasn't just for Jing. This is for every politician that I had the opportunity to discuss with. And again, Reggie actually chose to meet with me. The other Labor MPs who voted against the bill, people like Emily Burke, Russell Wortley, they didn't even bother to hear my perspective on this.
Well, as I say, it's easy to get down into the weeds here, but a lot of people are listening, including Reggie Martin from the Labor Party MP, and he sent me a text saying, Joanna knew I wasn't voting for it before this. She even acknowledged it in an email to me. So make of that what you will. What I'm interested in, you say, though, that after having this Sounds like a fairly robust discussion with Jing Lee, in which she said, "I will make you a hero," or effectively, "I'm going to vilify you. I will call you out.
I'm going to call you out," which I see is my job. That's what you do on as a journalist. That's what I do as a public figure. Okay. I call people out.
Okay. So you say that it ended with hugs and smiles.
Yeah. I've got photographic evidence, actually. So you don't take a selfie with someone who's been bullying you. And it was in a public place. There were lots of people going past.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you think you owe Jing Lee an apology?
Absolutely not. And what I wonder is who is pressuring her now to make this statement? Because Sarah Game also was pressured after we had a conversation about not pairing. She said to me that people had been bothering her too. So who is actually coercing Jing now to try and make this claim? Because it really doesn't match up with the conversation that we had.
Do you think you owe the Parliament an apology?
Absolutely not. I was not kicked out of the Parliament. I wasn't set. You know, I think now people on the other side who really hated this bill and hate everything that I've sort of advanced in it and the public awareness that I've raised, they are making these complaints about me. But I think it's really important to note that the President never kicked me out. He never censored me. There was lots of wild behaviour that night. People could see Connie Benares circling around Tung, around Sarah, around Jing. There was lots of crazy behaviour.
Russell Wortley is listening to this. He's also a Labor member of Parliament. He has sent me a screenshot of Katrine Hildyard, Minister for Child Protection, and you have put something together. I think he's suggesting it was you describing her as the Baby Killers Club. I mean, do you think that is... He wants to know, do you think that is appropriate?
I absolutely think it is appropriate to call any MP who supports injecting babies with potassium chloride after 28 weeks as someone who kills babies. It's factually accurate. And what I've said to Katrine and all the members of the Baby Killers Club who are on my social media, I've said, sue me for defamation and I will win because it's true. And while we're on the subject of Russell Wortley, he used parliamentary privilege to say that there is no source for anything that I say, which is absolutely inaccurate. As a professor of law, the claims that I have made in this space on abortion are referenced and they're supported. And so, you know, I don't have much store for the things that Russell Wortley says.
Well, just to wrap up then, do you think you might be doing your cause more harm than good because of that sort of material and because of your aggressive passion? I mean, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but you clearly are not afraid of grabbing somebody, pulling them aside and saying, "I'll make you a hero or I will excoriate you." You choose. I mean, it's pretty aggressive. You're playing hardball politics. Do you think you've actually started to do your cause some disservice?
So my first job was for Bill Shorten at the Australian Workers' Union. And when he hired me, I'd just taken over on Iswa from the radical left. We were a centre party, independent group. And he said to me, because I wrote to all the trade union leaders in Victoria and said, I need a job, who's going to give me one? And I had great marks and a passion for the union movement. Anyway, Bill met with me and straight away said, you've got the job, even before the interview. I said, well, how are you giving me a job? And he said, because you're the most hated person by Labor left on campus. This is its ingenuity. Anyway, it gives you an insight, because that was over 20 years ago. From there, I went to Oxford, did my PhD. I'm now at the University of Adelaide. But look, the reality is we have the most extreme abortion laws in the world. We allow abortion up to birth for any reason. And this calls for a fresh approach, because the old approach hasn't been working. And I made a decision. I knew this was career suicide. I knew that when I chose to speak out against the orthodoxy and the pro-abortion establishment 2.5 years ago, that there would be so many attacks. You know, I've had the president of the Women's Lawyers Association, Leah Marone, call for the university to sack me. I've been through 6 investigations. I took my own university to the Fair Work Commission this year for imposing corrective actions when their own investigation found that I'd done nothing wrong, and I won my case. The thing is, I went into this with my eyes wide open. Dr. Debbie Garrett's book, Alarmist Gatekeeping, traces how anybody in Australia who's ever spoken up against the abortion establishment has been bullied, attacked, vilified and harassed and shamed and ultimately cancelled out of the space. I knew that that is not going to happen to me because there is too much at stake. I've staked my academic career on justice for working people.
when South Australia legislated abortion up to birth in 2021, I knew that I could not care about justice if I did not start speaking up for these babies. So just to finish up by saying, you know, every month on social media, I'm reaching at least 1 million people. We had 5,000 people attend our public rally in support of the bill. The other side had 300. Okay. I believe that we are really moving towards a new conversation on abortion, which is so needed in Australia.
Dr. Joanna Howe, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.